rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. I want to welcome everyone that is listening to us today and joining us for today's podcast. So on today's podcast, or today's topic of discussion, we will be gathered here today to discuss self-esteem. I remember when I first was suggested or I was given the opportunity to join today's podcast, I was given a variety of topics. I was even given the choice to choose my own topic. But for some reason, I felt the need to discuss self-esteem. Self-esteem is such a simple yet broad topic. And it's a topic that a lot of people might know, and it's also a topic that a lot of people might not know. It's a topic that we don't often talk about, especially in our society and in our culture, because we kind of try to make it seem as if it is non-existent when it actually does exist. In fact, some people will tell you that self-esteem is defined by those around you, around one circle and their social structures, while others will tell you that it's defined by you or the way one views himself. But before I get into that and I tell you which view is actually correct, I just want to start off by asking you a very simple question. Every morning when you wake up, you know how you wake up, you take a moment, and then you go and you look into the mirror. What is the first thing that you notice about yourself? I'm gonna give you a second. Thought about it? Let me ask you, why is that the first thing that you notice? Is it a physical feature that maybe you're not too proud of? Or is it the thing that you were taught to love the most because you've been told that it is what makes you unique? I know you're probably wondering, why am I asking this question? It's simple. I'm trying to gather each and every one of you listening today to a more positive and accurate approach to determining who you really are rather than who you've been taught to be. And, it was to my surprise after doing a lot of research that according to a website that I was on recently, it's called moreselfesteem.com. It states that a study done by Dr. Joe Rubino claims that 85% of people worldwide suffer from low self-esteem. So that's not a tiny number. It's not 10%, it's not 20%, not even 50%, but instead it is 85%. That is a very large number. It is actually more than half of our population. So doesn't that tell you something? That means that there is something very wrong with the way people view themselves. And I can completely understand, because we all have our own thoughts and our opinions of ourselves. But let's take a step back. Let's define or find the accurate meaning of self-esteem. The Merriam-Webster definition of self-esteem will tell us that self-esteem is confidence and satisfaction in oneself, or self-respect. Therefore, there can't be any type of high self-worth without a sense of confidence, because apparently both of them go hand in hand. So remember, if you're not confident and you're not someone who is satisfied with themselves, there is barely going to be any self-respect or high regards that one carries themselves. So remember, the 85% I just gave you tells us how desperately we need to start investing more in the way we perceive ourselves. And I know this can be quite challenging, especially because not all of us find it easy to figure ourselves out. Let's also remember that not everyone is born with confidence. In fact, there's something that you have to understand about confidence or high self-esteem or boosting your self-esteem. It has to be done over time. Unfortunately, as human beings, we come into this world with a blank slate. Then as we grow up, or we go on this journey throughout life, everything starts to affect us. So we start to develop these traumas, and sometimes we're affected by the way maybe we were raised or the people we hang out with. But that is more than normal. Everyone is not expected to be this huge bubble of confidence or this huge bubble of, me all the time. It is completely normal to feel this way, and it's completely normal to not 100% understand yourself. That's why knowing that in itself should really give us some ease, because to add on to all those things that I just mentioned, most of the time the self-esteem we're actually looking for is often validation from others. But just as we struggle to find exactly who it is we are, most likely those whom we seek validation from do too, believe it or not. So I know you're wondering now, where am I going with this? Why would you allow people who are still confused with who they are determine who you are? It's not fair, don't you think? Like, seriously, think this through. They happen to know exactly who you are, so they say, right? But the one that they spend every waking moment of their lifespan with, which is themselves, they still have no clue about. Remember, these are the same individuals. Remember the social structures and the people we hang out with and those things that happen to us throughout our lives and those names we were probably called and those things we were taught to always be. They're changing. They're influenced. And they're learning new things each and every day about themselves. So it makes no sense for you to allow them to determine who you are, or to tell you all the time you're this way and you're that way, when they can't even figure things out for themselves. Here, I'll give you a small scenario. It's like two individuals who are painting, and both of them are really good at making art. Artists, in fact. You have two artists. You have artist A and you have artist B. Artist A decides to stop painting and watches artist B, who's minding his masterpiece. Reason being is that they haven't figured out what they're going to paint, and they start questioning their own ability. Mind you, they're both really good at their craft. But artist B decides to take the initiative with full confidence and do exactly what comes to mind and brings their vision to life. Upon their completion, artist B made something beautiful, exactly the way they wanted it. However, artist A was so focused on artist B's painting that they lost track of making art altogether. To even make matters worse, because they later developed an idea in their head about their own painting that they never brought forth after being inspired, they decided to criticize their fellow artist's painting. This later discouraged artist B, unfortunately, and even made them start seeing their art less beautiful than it once was. Now, instead of having one individual who wasn't sure about their art, aka themselves, remember, we're using art to describe themselves, because that's what it is. We now have two. See, if artist A had just focused on their painting and was confident in their own work as did artist B, then there would no longer be need for them to intervene with the work of others. Instead, they would be much more appreciative of the other's art, and they could even have taught one another some new techniques to improve their talents. Moreover, if artist B continues believing in themselves and shuts out the outside noises and interruptions, they would have never had an issue with their art. Nor would they allow someone to determine its worth because they so happen to be an artist too. See, my friends, this is the same that goes with us. We are all artists of our own life, and the people around us are the artists of their own life. Some will work to make their own masterpieces, while others will focus on what it is you're doing, and will even try to instill a mindset within your mind about yourself. You must be able to be aware of your own journey and exactly what your goal is for yourself. You cannot allow the noises and voices of others to intervene. You must also understand that the only people you have something to prove to are actually three. It is your past, your present, and your future self. Your past self in the sense that you're becoming better than who you were, not falling into bad habits, improving your life, making sure that what you once did that you weren't proud of, you're no longer doing. Your present self in the sense of understanding and building a connection with your higher self. Who are you today? Why are you this way? What makes you so unique? And your future self in the sense of intending to be the best version of yourself, even if you don't know what that is yet. I want to be great. I don't know what that is, but I will be great. anything besides that will just have you stuck in a huge rabbit hole that you can't really get out of. And it'll only make you feel much worse about yourself. You'll stay in that low self-esteem mindset for as long as you live. So now that we know what self-esteem is, we even know the percentage of individuals who are suffering from self-esteem. We also know the actual definition of self-esteem, and I even gave you guys an example with the two artists. Now it's time for us to go into the more convenient stuff. See, low self-esteem isn't something that's permanent. As I mentioned earlier, it happens again throughout our life, and we can fix it at any given time once we're ready. Once we know we have the tools, and once we can identify what the actual problem is or what it is that makes us feel a certain way about ourselves. And luckily for you all today listening, I actually came up with 10 ways to improve your self-esteem that you can implement in your daily lives to help increase self-worth and confidence. So the first one is, you must understand that there is no one like you. I'm not saying that in a narcissistic, oh, I'm better than everyone way. No, there is absolutely no one like you. There won't ever be another like you, and that you were made to be you and you're one of a kind, no matter what that's like. You must stop wasting it on trying to be like someone else. Like, imagine you were blessed to be who you are today, and there's so many cool things about you, and in fact, you could have been something so great or so big that will inspire others, but you were too busy wasting your time trying to be like everyone else and trying to allow everyone to define you. See, that's just really not necessary. Number 2 is get to know yourself. I mean, really know yourself. Take some time to be alone, do things alone without depending on others to do them with you or for you. That is very important. Because if you can't, you must be able to handle hanging out with yourself. You have to build a type of connection with yourself just as you would with someone who you'd want to hang out with all the time, because you're going to spend most of your time with yourself. Number 3, embrace every single thing about yourself. Acceptance is key in obtaining confidence. Once you can accept who you are, then you will start to feel confident. From the way you look to the way you think, your perfections and your imperfections. In fact, there's a really fun exercise that you can do. You can grab a piece of paper, make a list, and you'll be surprised how many things are actually cool about you. You'll also be surprised at how your flaws are actually what makes you unique. Number 4, make sure to take care of yourself, like both your physical appearance and your environment. That includes something simple as making your bed in the morning before leaving your house, and dressing well and maintaining good hygiene. When a person looks good, they begin to feel good and worthy. So remember that. Number 5, start surrounding yourself with people who are ambitious, goal-oriented, and investing in themselves. By building positive relationships with others, that energy will begin to rub off on you and will allow you to develop a sense of self-love. And it will allow you to want to begin to change or to make a change of some sort. You know, when I was younger, I always used to hear this saying, and I would hear it from multiple people, like just growing up. They used to say that you are the average of whom you hang out with. I want you to really imagine that. So imagine you're this amazing, successful entrepreneur and you have a friend group and you guys are all entrepreneurs, you are all successful, and you happen to be at the top. Even when you're at the top, you're still an average of them. So it really shows you how much your circle can impact you and how much your circle can either make or break you when it comes to who you are and who you become. Number 6, try to find new ways to increase your income. Income is actually very important. So if, for example, you're not doing anything right now, or you happen to have some extra time or free time, try to go get a job or start a business. Because the more you're financially stable and financially free, the more you can do and the less you'll need others. So most of the time, believe it or not, we're affected by those opinions because those other people determine different factors in our life. Either they're our provider or they're the ones that take care of us. But when you're actually the one who is bringing your own stuff, doing your own things, less you'll need the validation of others. This actually limits the room for you to be criticized and having to be compared either by yourself or others all the time. Number 7, keep the promises that you make yourself. If you say you're going to finish that book, then finish that book. If you say you're going to go jogging at a certain time of the day, go jogging at that certain time of the day. See, a lot of people don't think that this is actually a serious thing, but it is. When you break the promises with yourself, you're teaching your mind that you are not worthy, nor can you trust yourself to make your own decisions. That's why you'll start to need, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? All the time. Number 8, become more assertive. I cannot stress this enough. You must learn not to tolerate the things that you don't feel like or that make you feel uncomfortable or that bring you down in general. With that being said, you must learn to say no. I know that this one is kind of hard for some individuals because you don't want to hurt anyone's feelings or mean or whatever the case may be. But actually, that's not the case. You'd be surprised who you're actually hurting. You're actually hurting yourself. See, the word no is just a shield to save you from so much emotional distress. And it should be on the top of your list when you're placed in a position that questions your self-worth and is associated with validation. Sometimes being too kind or so-called too nice, it can be seen by others as people-pleasing. And that gives off a very big sense that you're still seeking validation and you don't love yourself enough. And that is the opposite of what you're actually trying to achieve. Number 9, be gentle with yourself. Understand that you are your best bet. Speak to yourself like you'd speak with your friends. So when your friend has an issue or doesn't feel good about themselves, obviously you're not going to sit there and tell them, you did this, you're horrible, I don't like anything about you, you're ugly, like A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That's not what you would do normally to a friend. So why is it that you would do that to yourself? You're also your friend, and your inner self hears the words that you say to yourself. And I forgot which culture it was, but I remember reading somewhere that they mentioned that there is an inner warrior inside of you. And that so-called warrior, it hears the things that you say to them. And the more you say bad things to yourself, the more that so-called warrior, or as we'd put it in this situation, self-esteem, it begins to sleep. But the more you start saying good things to them, and the more you start appreciating and valuing the little details about yourself, the more you feed the strength of that warrior. So you have to see it as that way. And you can't call yourself bad names, and you must eliminate the bad thoughts that you have of yourself. They're literally draining you mentally. Number 10, and this one is actually my favorite one from the entire list, and I feel like it is one of the most important ones. You must challenge yourself. You'd be surprised what you're actually capable of. Try things that you normally wouldn't, like new foods. You find sushi to be creepy? Try it. You actually might end up liking it. Go and see some new places. Wanted to visit the Taj Mahal? Go for it. You might end up liking that too. And meet new people. You heard about that new business that opened up down the street? Go, check it out. Talk to the owner, talk to the workers. You'd be surprised what you'll learn. Basically, just step out of your comfort zone. Expose yourself to new ideas. It actually motivates you to look forward to life, and it will shift your focus on all the negative thoughts that you have of yourself. Well, now that you know how to improve your self-esteem as an individual or as an adult, I actually want to point something out to parents or future parents, anyone who already has kids or who plans to have kids. This is just like a small reminder that please instill in the mind of your children at a young age that they are worthy, that they are good enough, because it starts the moment they learn how to speak, and it starts when you two start engaging in conversation. And I know, especially as Muslim parents, we often do things because it's the way that we were raised or the way that we were taught. And we often sometimes say things to our kids that aren't good. And we even sometimes curse or use very bad names to describe the child's behavior on specific days and specific times. And I think that isn't a good approach. I'm not saying that if you do that, you're a horrible person. I'm just saying that we can do better. Because sometimes, like I said, we're not doing it intentionally. And I know deep inside, and a lot of people can probably relate to this, that parents don't always mean what they say. They say it and it's actually hurtful, but they don't mean what they say. They say it in moments of anger, or they say it because, like I said, that's what they thought like their entire life was actually okay. But you'd be surprised. All it takes is one time to push a child away. And the one time that you say something that you didn't mean or you said out of anger can actually destroy a child's mentality of themselves. And unfortunately, those are going to be the things that, as they get older, they're going to start to develop a problem with those things that you once said to them in the past. And you don't think that it affects the child that much, but it actually does. You have to teach them that they can be great instead of pointing out all the things that they're not good at. Like, say, for example, maybe you have a kid who isn't as good in school as you'd want them to be. Don't tell them that they're a loser, because for as long as you tell them something, they'll start to believe it. Like they say it enough, think it enough, then believe it enough, then eventually you'll be it. That's the same thing that goes with a child. Don't point out their physical features. Don't tell them that they have big feet, or that they're not as beautiful as so-and-so, or that they're not as smart as so-and-so. Don't compare your kids either, because that too starts to develop a resentment in the child for you as well. Not just for themselves, but for you as well. And believe it or not, those are actually going to be the things that they're the most insecure about as they become adults. So please be patient with them. Please love them. Please expose them to good vibes and good energies at home. Tell them that they're doing good. Tell them that they're doing great. Tell them that you see them as something big. And tell them that you're blessed to have them. Because at the end of the day, we know that our children are our amana. And we know that at one point they were always the thing that we always wanted. So we have to treat them as those things. We have to genuinely take care of them, take care of their minds, their sacred personalities, and help them to develop a great sense of worth, and help them to gain a better understanding of who they are. But as I conclude today's podcast, I just want to tell you one last time, from all the information that you gathered here today, you now know that self-esteem plays a huge role in life, and it is one of the greatest factors that will determine how well or how poorly you'll operate throughout your human experience. Hence, you must be able to fully invest in yourself without needing the voices and opinions of those around you. Remember, just as earlier I had given you the two artists dynamic, you are the artist of your own life. You are the only one responsible of your own life. You decide whether or not you organically will make your own art or wait for someone else's. You should be able to be content in your own opinion of yourself, and the only thing you ever allow someone to determine, if anything, should be your net worth, not your self-worth. But I hope that this has been a great help to you today, and I hope that you will take some of these key points and implement them in your life. Thank you all for joining us, and we will see you next time. And stay blessed. Bye.